Well, better late than never. Not exactly prompt, but I had a Zoom with my YouTube members, which is really nice. Just a little Sunday night catch up ahead of time, and we were no, come here. I have a golden retriever who, excuse me, is scared of wind, and it's a little windy. You're good. Come on, you're fine. But anyway, yeah, so that was nice. July 4th is the world's longest weekend, I think, this weekend. Long on a lot of levels. I think one, the 4th being on a Friday, we kind of started the weekend early and it just went on and on and on. There. No, I'm not going upstairs. You go upstairs. You're good. There. Had a good for it. Yeah, so my oldest son has gone on a trip. Where is he gone? Oh, he's studying in England, and he is in Pamplona to run with the bulls, which is probably not a great idea. But anyway, he's 19 and he wants to do that, and we've had lots of conversations. And, you know, at some point you have to let people do what they like. So there you have it. My middle two are volunteer counselors at Camp Trinity, which is a great spot 2 miles down the road. And this week it's Adventure Camp, which is camp for people with disabilities. And Amos, my youngest son, is going for the second year in a row. Super excited about that. He's really excited. My daughter Blair is volunteering for the first time, and she's going to be helping with him, and he's glad she's there. And so anyway, they went today to do training, and then I'll take Amos tomorrow afternoon around 3. And that's it. So it's just Amos and I and the dog here tonight. And I'd like to think that it was going to be a nice, quiet week and I'd get a lot of stuff done, but it won't be. So it's okay. It's okay. Just sort of trying to enjoy the summer. I was just saying to my members today, we had our neighbors over. We grilled some bright leaf hot dogs. Those are red hot dogs. If you aren't familiar with red hot dogs, I don't know why they're red, but they're very good. And now I like an all beef hot dog, but like sometimes you just need a red hot dog. And you get some bright leaf chili, and some mustard, and onions, and tater tots. We just sat outside on the porch and visited for like an hour and a half. And that has really been my goal this summer, is to just try to not be in such a hurry. And like, if you walk by somebody's house and they're on their porch, sit down, you know? I think I realized that we had my father-in-law living with us this spring, and I thought I kind of knew that, belonging to a person with a disability, but it's like, you know, older people are getting slower, and it's like the rest of the world is so fast, and I don't know, it just is really important to take the time and just slow down a minute. Which really brings me into our topic for tonight, which is Camp Mystic. And usually Old Mom Sunday night is, I was telling my neighbor, or a friend that's down here, and she was like, what is Old Mom Sunday night? And I said, well, it's usually kind of silly and lighthearted, but that this week will probably be Old Mom Monday night. Old Mom Sunday night is going to be a little more serious this week, because I just have been, my thoughts have just been in a whirl, and I would believe that millions of other people are feeling the same way about what's happened in Texas. And I had, you know, there's comments like, oh, you know, Trump dismantled the weather service, and they would have, you know, you can't make accusations unless you, if it were true, it's one thing. But the other thing is, like, it's happened. And so I think there's this, our instinct is to be an armchair quarterback, you know. And I am guilty. I am like, I would be first draft pick if there were armchair quarterbacks. What happened, and I saw a picture of the cabin, and it really just hurt my heart. It was the inside of the cabin, and I commented on a post and said, I just don't think you should have shown this. Like, it's too much. Like, and it'd be one thing, like, if it were a school shooter, because I think sometimes we need to look at the devastation of what happens when it's something that we can change, or a drunk driver. Like, you don't want to look, you're a drunk and you don't want to look at what happens to a family that's killed by a drunk driver. Well, you know what? You're going to look, because you're going to see what you could do and why you need to not drink. But when it's a terrible accident, it feels different. And this was an accident. This was, yes, there were weather warnings. This was 100-year flood. And it was dark in the middle of the night, and it was raining, and the river rose 27 feet in 45 minutes. 27 feet is the height of like a 2-story house. It's just, it was a terrible, terrible accident. And you had teenagers who were counselors. And as somebody who, I went to camp, I never liked camp, but I went to camp. My children seem to like camp. They've been to camp for a month. This was a month-long camp. And near us, we have Camp Seafair and Seagull. That's kind of North Carolina's month-long camp version, particularly in the eastern part of the state. And you get all the stuff, particularly when they're little, and these were the youngest campers. And the youngest campers really that's when you're really organized. You buy clothes for camp. Now, when they get old, like my crowd, you look for the worst clothes to take. You never write a name in anything, because you hope the stuff doesn't come home. And I often think, related to like drowning in a pool, this mom from Winston-Salem, her son drowned. Husband's a physician. They were at the beach on a vacation. And in the time she said, I had given him a bite of a brownie, and I had popped the rest of the brownie in my mouth. We were getting ready to go hunt for crabs on the beach. And when I found him in the pool, I was still chewing the brownie. And it was so fast. And I think about that, how often that is. Like, 45 minutes, you think like, nobody woke up or nobody did this. In 45 minutes, you could say, I'm going to take a shower and like shave my legs and put on a face mask and come out, and it would be done, you know? So, and you had teenagers who were in charge. And, I think human instinct says, get out. If I were in a house and the water were coming in, I think I'd get out. That's why you see people on their roof, like, you got to get out. Could they have stayed in? Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Maybe. But, nobody knew. And, I think they're hopeful. There's still 11 campers. I only maybe have 9 or 10 names. There's one camper that careful not to share things that families don't want shared. Everybody, the children have like a photo with the parents, have their cell phone numbers. And somebody said, why are you sharing that? I was like, well, the parents want it shared because they're desperate, right? Your child is gone. You've dropped them off at camp. You've put their sunscreen in their cubby. You've licked the stamps for the envelope. You've addressed the envelopes. You've mailed a care package. You want to do something, and maybe it's giving your cell number to the world. If you said to me right now, boy, I don't know where Amos is, I'd give you my cell number, The cabin did not float away. The water filled up the cabin, and the director of the camp also drowned was trying to help them. The cabin with the littlest campers was closest to the river. Um, so anyway, it's just really tough. I don't know if the water is receded or not. I think today there was another flash. They call it like a flash wave, like a flood wave, flash flood wave. It's the it's the most dangerous river valley in the country. Um, and the last time that there was kind of a terrible accident there was 1980, so that's almost 50 years ago. And the water was coming up quickly during the daytime, and they were putting children on buses to get them out of there. And the last bus got caught in the water, and 10, 10 children died. 10 children died. Raining there again. Yeah, Kathy, I thought I had read that. And then this afternoon, there was some, guy, boots on the ground, who was like, just heard that they rescued 2 girls 27 feet up in a tree. It was this morning. And I was thinking, well, that's a miracle. Like, they sat in a tree for 24 hours. Like, and then you didn't hear the names. 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 Well, it wasn't true. And, but what I was thinking, which is kind of what made me talk about this, was like, okay, let's just say they did find a person or 2 people or 2 children. And I think we would all say, boy, that's a miracle. Like, they lived, that's amazing. But the problem with miracles is that there's a lot of people that they don't get the miracle. They want it, And the reason I say that is when my brother had cancer and died, and I remember people would say these things, and they would say, it's hard to believe that people say shit like this, but they do. He's in a better place. And I remember I wrote down the things they said. I don't know where the piece of paper is, and I can't remember, but I had 10 things, and I only can remember 2 or 3. And then I would write, like, the antithesis below it, like, well, no, he's not, because the best place was with me, and, or, well, he's not suffering anymore, or, well, now everything's wonderful, because you're thinking about yourself. So with these miracles, I remember somebody had, like, reading, like, somebody had cancer and they were healed. And your thought is, well, what about my person? Why weren't they healed? And so when I was that age, I was 15, I thought the way my mind wrapped around it was, everybody's going to get one bad thing that happens to them, and I've gotten mine out of the way. This is really, I thought it would be kind of great if life was like that, maybe. So I was like, well, I'm good now. I can drive fast. I can really do whatever I want, because God is not going to let anything happen to me, because, he's killed my brother. He's gone. So now we're safe. And then my best friend got cancer. And I was like, wow, that somebody changed the rules, of the game. And then in college, 5 students at Chapel Hill, 3 of my childhood friends, were killed in a fire at the Phi Gam house at UNC. And it was Mother's Day weekend, and my parents and I had been in Wilmington on the boat for Mother's Day, and I was back here sitting in this exact room looking at this TV. It was a different TV, and my boyfriend at the time called to tell me there was a fire, and Annie and Mark and Josh were killed. And I said, What are you talking about? Stop. Why would you say that? That's not true. And like screamed at him and got off. And he said, just turn on, I wonder if he remembers this conversation, just turn on the television. And I turned on the television. You know, we didn't have social media. This is 1995, 4. And it was on the news, this fire. And I got in the car, and this is irrelevant, but I got in the car. I didn't even have on shoes. And I drove to one of the friends' houses, 2.5 hours away. And I remember my mother and I talking, and we didn't talk about my brother a lot then, but we were both like, boy, this is so hard. Like we thought losing Adam was hard. This is harder. And because with Adam, you had time, you know, and this was like 1 minute you're there and 1 minute you're gone. And much less like little children that you drop off at camp. I mean, you count the days till you go pick them up. You know, I take Amos to camp tomorrow. I pick him up on Friday. I'm already looking forward to picking him up. You know, it's natural. And this was horrible. And so I think when we talk about miracles, we can say, yeah, they're miracles. They really do happen. But we don't always get one, you know, and it's not personal, I don't think. It's just, you know, I'm going to ban this person, get that off the list. It's not personal. It's not personal. But boy, it's tough. The other thing I think I've learned is, and this is in scripture, not that I'm like a theologian, is that whenever you have pain, God will reward you with twice as much good. And I think about that a lot. And He can make good out of anything bad. So somebody said earlier, God doesn't give you anything you can't handle. Well, that is the dumbest you know what T I have ever heard in my life. God doesn't give you anything anyway. Life gives you things, and you might not be able to handle them. You know, the idea that you think, what do you mean nothing you can't handle? Like, what are you talking about? Of course there are things that happen. But what was I saying? No, shit, no, I can't remember. Life can't handle. This is what happens when your brain is shot. Oh, I know. But when I look back at my life, two big thoughts. One is that we get a lot more miracles than we know about. I think we have so many saves, and I hope someday we're given like a master list when you're like, why did you let Adam die, God? That He's like, Adrian, I would like to give you this 3-ring binder full of all the times I gave you a miracle. And I'll be like, okay, well, I do hear that. Because I think we get a lot of saves. Maybe it was when we were driving down the highway and we came upon a terrible accident. And we thought, boy, if we'd left a minute earlier, or maybe it was the time I was putting in hurricane shutters down here at my neighbor's and this thing like snapped and it could have hit somebody in the head and would have killed them. You know, like just these little tiny things, because everything goes fine. We don't think about it. Or the time I lost my son and the police brought him home. Amos, he was 2, and he could have been killed by a car. You know, all those miracles. But the other thing I think is that when something terrible happens in your life, you do have choices. You can you have to choose what you're going to do, you know, and it's a choice. It really is a choice. It's not, oh God, you can handle it. You don't have any choice. You do have a choice, and you've got to say, okay, I'm going to pivot, I'm going to pivot. What am I going to do? And one time we had this priest, and he gave some really good advice. We were struggling, and he said, I want you to go home this weekend, and I want you to take a cup and fill it halfway up with water. And I don't want you to talk about your problems. I want you to just look at the cup all weekend and think about what you're thankful for. Really, this idea of your mindset, and granted, people have just lost children. You don't need to go giving them any like pep talk. Not they're in a better place, not I'm sorry you didn't get your miracle, not God took them because they were so wonderful, not, you should have prayed more, not you shouldn't have sent them to camp, not why did you do that, you. Just if you have a friend, all you have to do is say, I am so sorry. Not, I couldn't survive that. I can't imagine that. Because what that makes people is feel alone. And I say that even as the mom of a child with a disability, like, I could never do what you do, which kind of feels sucky. Like, well, here I am doing it. I didn't sign up for it either, I lost one of my twins at the age of 13 in a wreck. Always have a hole in my hair. Oh, yeah, Judy. And Debbie lost a child, too. Yeah. But be there, be there to clean a toilet or to write a note or to pay an electric bill or give a Pizza Hut gift card. Just be there. Be there. I think that's kind of my go-to when something happens to a friend or is how can I help? I can clean out a fridge. I can restock toilet paper. What can I do? But I think we're also reminded of like life is so precious, and we think we know it. We really do think we know it, but we don't know it. Because that's why we're so shocked when something like this happens, because we don't know it. We really think we're going to have tomorrow. We're going to have tomorrow. And I lost a friend this fall who went to bed and didn't wake up. 2 little boys. And I think about her a lot. She was a good friend. And she lived her life really full. She always made time for friends or for a phone call and her family, and she loved being a mother, and she was a teacher, and I just imagine that she went to bed, I hope she didn't have regrets, because she didn't have anything to regret. And that is where I think I want to be more like that. I want to be the person that says, yeah, I'm going to stop and talk to my neighbor for an hour. And yeah, I've got some stuff to do, but it can wait, I could clean up this kitchen, but it's okay. It's all right. So anyway, I never know what to say, and then I wind up saying nothing, so I don't say the wrong thing. I definitely think don't ever say nothing. You can just say, I'm sorry, and I don't know what to say, but I'm so sorry. Yeah, Anna said she lost her daughter to cancer. People say, I don't know how you carry on. Yeah. It's not easy. And not just as a sibling. It's hard for me to imagine that anything could be harder than that. Hey.
You're supposed to go to Lisa's.
I did go to Lisa's.
Did you?
I did, and then I came back.
How many minutes?
I went for about 15 minutes.
Good girl, Anna. Hey, Molly.
Yeah, Amos, tell me something. Where are you going tomorrow?
to Trinity.
How many sleeps?
4.
Who's going to be there?
Holden,
Yeah.
Sissy, and Russell.
Yay! Are you
Good girl, Anna.
Are you going to have a good time?
Anna, good girl.
Is Honor going to take you to camp?
Yeah.
Yeah. Honor, you going to
Honor.
take him to camp?
Good girl, Anna.
Good girl.
Say it.
She is a good girl.
Hey, good girl, Anna. Good girl.
So yeah, tomorrow we're
Can
gonna.
you say it, please?
Good girl, Honor. Good girl.
Sit down. Good girl, Anna. Good girl.
Okay, you have about 15 minutes before night night.
You'll go to Nina's house tomorrow.
Okay. That's right.
I need hot dogs and milk.
Okay, I'll come up and make you a hot dog.
Good girl.
Good girl.
Out downstairs.
Okay.
Good girl, Anna. Good
Um,
girl.
So yeah, I'm gonna take him to camp. And I'm gonna hug him and kiss him goodbye, and I'm gonna make his bed, and I'm gonna honor quit. And I'm gonna be thankful that I have the opportunity and hope that I get to pick him up, you know? But I think there's some thought of like, well, they shouldn't go to camp, or you shouldn't ride in a car, or don't get on a boat, or don't do this. But it's life, you know? It's life. It's life. Yes, he does love hot dogs. I don't know how healthy that is, but anyway. Enjoyed y'all tonight, members. See y'all tomorrow morning for a coffee chat, quiet coffee chat, which will be nice. And just sending lots of peace and love and prayers to all our Texas families. Mwah.